A few kind words can disappear by tomorrow, but one small criticism can stay in your mind for years. A little while ago, I met an old friend I hadn't seen in a long time. They said several kind things about what I had been working on. I smiled, thanked them, and moved on. But just before we said goodbye, they made one slightly critical comment. It wasn't cruel, just one small remark with a sharp edge. Later, when I got home and sat down with a cup of tea, I noticed something strange. All the kind things my friend had said seemed to have disappeared, but that one critical remark was still there, perfectly clear. It was as if a single drop of black ink had fallen into a glass of clean water, slowly changing the color of the entire evening. Why can one critical remark outweigh so many kind words? Why does praise seem to pass through us so easily, while criticism finds a place to stay? I used to treat this as a flaw in my character, but maybe the more interesting question is not why I am like this, but why the mind gives some words more weight than others. We often imagine that the mind records experience like a camera. Five kind comments and one critical comment go in. So we assume our memory should preserve roughly the same balance. But the mind is not a neutral recorder. It is closer to an editor deciding which information may matter later. Researchers sometimes describe part of this tendency as a negativity bias. Negative information often receives more attention and carries more psychological weight than equally positive information. It is not an absolute rule, and it varies from person to person. But it may help explain why one critical remark can become more noticeable than several compliments. Praise usually tells us that things are fine, nothing needs to change. There may be no immediate problem to solve. On the other hand, criticism carries a different message. Something may be wrong, something may need to be corrected, something could affect the way another person sees us. In learning terms, criticism can behave like an error signal. It suggests a gap between how we expect it to be seen and how we may actually have been seen. The kind words from my friend were pleasant, but they didn't present me with a problem. The critical remark did. It left behind a question. Is there something here that I need to change? And questions without clear answers tend to remain mentally active. Praise allows the mind to move on. Criticism can leave the mind waiting for a conclusion. There is another reason criticism can become so heavy. We don't always hear it as information about one action. We often hear it as information about who we are. You handled that badly becomes I am bad at this. That comment was insensitive becomes I am an insensitive person. One observation quietly expands into a judgment of the whole self. Growing up in Japan, I became familiar with a certain social rhythm. When praised, we often make ourselves smaller. No, not really. But criticism is something we are expected to take seriously and reflect on. This habit of modesty can make social interactions smoother, but it may also teach us to dismiss praise before it fully registers, while giving criticism extra time and authority. The imbalance is not only in what other people say, it can also be in how we have learned to receive it. Of course, criticism can contain useful information. Ignoring every uncomfortable comment would not make us wiser. But a comment can be useful without becoming a complete definition of us. Something we did may need improvement. That doesn't mean everything we are has been exposed as defective. The problem is not that we know this criticism. The problem begins when one piece of information is allowed to rewrite the entire story. So, when criticism begins to fill the entire picture, I try to restore the context around it. First, what was actually said, not what I fear the person meant, not the larger judgment I added afterward, just the original words. Then I ask whether the criticism is specific and useful. Is there something concrete I can change? Is it partly true? Or does it mostly reflect the other person's preferences, mood, or expectations? If there is something useful in it, I can keep that part and decide what to do. If there is nothing I can act on, continuing to carry the comment does not make me more responsible. It only gives the comment more space. Finally, I try to remember the full conversation, not to cancel criticism with praise, but to stop one moment from erasing everything around it. My friend offered several sincere words of encouragement. That also happened. Those words are not made less real simply because my attention moved away from them. Sometimes, balance does not mean forcing ourselves to think positively. It simply means returning the information that our mind removed from the frame. So, when one critical remark stays with us, perhaps we don't need to blame ourselves for being weak. Our attention may simply be treating that remark as unfinished and important. We can listen to it without handing it control of the entire story. If the criticism is true, we can learn from it. If it's useful, we can act on it. If it's neither, we can let it remain someone else's opinion. And perhaps we can give kind words a little more time to register. Not by pretending that the black drop never entered the water, but by remembering that it was only one moment in a much larger evening. That evening also contained laughter, warmth, and the quiet pleasure of meeting an old friend again. The criticism was real, but it was not the whole conversation. Thank you for joining me in this observation today. Stay curious. I'll see you in the next observation.